In the 7th section of the course, we'll be talking about the unit and integration testing of Web API. In this section, we are going to take a look at writing unit tests, then extending unit tests by using some specialized libraries, then writing integration tests, and finally extending our integration or so-called end-to-end tests as well. In this video, we'll start with writing a basic unit test. You'll see how you can create and run tests, or actually a test project using the .NET CLI, and finally we'll implement a very basic unit test. Let's open our terminal, and here I would like to make a new test project. So I'll navigate into my tests directory, and I'll just create a new project. I will call it .NET new xunit, and then type kubo.tests. Now I would like to add a reference to the core project. So I'll just say .NET add, then provide the path to a csproj, which means there is the csproj, then keyword reference, and the path to my core project. So it's going to be this one. And finally, I would like to add this test project to my solution file. So let's just do .NET SLN add, and then provide a path to my test project. csproj. All right. Before we actually start testing, let's get back into our testing project and see if we have all that we need. So let's open this one. I'll just type csproj here. And here you can see we have our .NET Test SDK and the xunit as well as xunit runner for Visual Studio. So this is all we need. And actually, let's just call a .NET restore here. All right, now let's open up our IDE. So I'll be using Visual Studio Code. And let's open my project. And here we have our brand new unit test project. So at the very beginning, let's actually get rid of this dummy class. And let's create a new test. So here I'll create a new folder. I'll name it, let's say, repositories. And we'd like to create a new repository test. So I will create a new class and I'll just call it bucket repository tests. And here I can create a new test. So I will create a new method, and since our repositories as well as services are fully asynchronous, we'll just define our method as async task, because we can test in an asynchronous way as well. And let's think about for a while. So what we want to test is we like to test if actually adding or calling this addAsync method on our repository actually creates a bucket. So let's name it addAsync should create new bucket. Add a using here. And when you want to test something with xunit, all we need to do is to just mark our test method with this fact attribute. And now let's create our test. So at the very beginning, we have this first phase, which is arrange. So we'll just find our variables here. At the beginning, we have this repository. So let's just create a new in-memory bucket repository. So I want to test this one here. So let's just put it there. Add a using here. And let's think. We would like to actually create a new bucket and then maybe fetch it and test its name. So let's create here a name variable and let's just call it test bucket. And now let's actually create a new bucket. So new bucket, add a using to our domain here, provide the ID, which is some random ID, and pass our name. Okay, so now we are moving towards the act phase. So we have three phases: arrange, act, and assert. And here we would like to call await repository addAsync, like this. And we want to add our bucket. Just to keep in mind, our repository is called, in short, SUT, which means system under test or system under testing. Sometimes you might find this variable name for the things that you are testing just named as SUT instead. And finally, let's do some assertions. So here in our assert part, At first, we want to fetch our bucket. So let's call it created bucket and await repository, get async for a bucket name. And we can actually test if our bucket assert is the same object. So if our bucket is the same object as our created bucket, and it has to be the same because our in-memory repository actually stores everything using its internal set. So how we can run the test? Well, very easily. As you can see, you can run it directly from Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or other IDEs by clicking here, or also via your terminal. So actually I can just type .NET test and we'll just build a project and actually execute our test. As you can see, we have one test that has passed properly. We can also run it from here, and let's see what happens if we actually change this assertion so it's not true. So not same, and it will be a failed test. We can run it from here. Let's just click run test. And as you can see, we are getting the whole struct trace within our testing CLI, and we exactly know what happened and where it happened, so we can easily refactor our code, fix it, and make our test